Alright guys, just a quick one from me. I thought I'd do a quick update on my bike packing setup. I did one about 8 months ago and I thought I'd do like a follow-up and kind of just give a few updates on things that have changed. I'll try and keep this as short as possible, so I'll just go through the stuff I've got and kind of lessons learned and tips and tricks. All the weights and dimensions and all that stuff you can find online, so we'll skip all that. And then I also have this GoPro which I'll hold just so I can get the more like closer in shots when I'm talking about something specifically. And yeah, I'll try and go through it as quick as I can so that way we all save time. Alright, if we start at the back, this is a Surly Wednesday, which is just like a standard fat bike, I guess you could say, steel frame, and this is pretty much a 3-season setup. So carries all the stuff you'd need for most of the year. On the very back, we've got a roll-off. Roll-off has been amazing. I'd highly recommend one of them if you can get them, but I'll leave that for another video because it is kind of an in-depth discussion, pros and cons and all that stuff. Above that, we have the first bikepacking bag, the Revelator holster with the terrapin that sits inside. They do say the terrapin is waterproof. Maybe mine's just old, but I haven't had that experience even from when I first bought it. So I actually have everything sit in Ziploc bags, within those Ziploc bags in a rubbish bag, and then the rubbish bag goes inside the terrapin bag. That's really useful because it means when I'm in the tent, I can just lift up the rubbish bag and put that in my tent and leave the terrapin in the vestibule. That way it keeps all the wet stuff out of the tent. And then the next morning you can just lift the rubbish bag and drop it straight into the terrapin bag, and there's no need for fiddling or anything like that. So it's really efficient, keeps everything dry. So yeah, so we've got the Revelator terrapin which sits in this this holster, and then on top I've got my tent, which is a Hilberg Namage tent. Quite a hardcore 4-season tent, so I'll probably be changing that. But it is good, I find, to sit it here because I don't want to move this too much because the bike will move, but this thing swings from side to side, which is actually good because you don't want anything really rigid on your bike as you're going over rocks and drops and all that stuff. So this thing swings side to side, which is really good, so there's no pressure on one point. And then to support it, I have kind of this netting, which just helps the tent stay smooth, I guess you'd say, against the terrapin bag. And then I've also got this strap here. It's a bit hard to see, and that is really important. And I find that without that strap, things really start to drag and drop, and I have had 1 or 2 issues where sometimes it actually touched the bottom wheel, it dropped that much. So the 2 ways to solve that is, 1 is this strap, and even if I didn't have my tent, I'd probably still have the strap, and 2 is just packing the bag less. So we talk about packing generally on the bike, I always try and keep the heaviest things in the frame bag. Usually the heaviest things are water, right? So I've got water here, water there, and then electronics. I make videos, oh, I should mention that actually. I make videos like usually once a week about my trip and all that stuff. Anyway, so that means like batteries and chargers and all that stuff, which are usually quite heavy. So I try and keep all that low and centered to the bike. So a lot of the batteries and chargers I have sit here, and that just means that the weight is quite close to the frame. If it's further out here, then it swings a lot more and puts a lot more pressure on the bag and the holster and makes it drag down quite a bit. All right, if we leave it at that, if we move forward, we've got these top two bags. Not a whole lot to mention about them. One thing I would say is the J-Packs top tube bag I really like, just because it's a bit more volume than others, and it's really handy because this bag you access really often, well you should be at least, right, because it's easiest to reach for. So it has my really commonly used items. Below that we've got the Alpkit frame bag. Probably the one thing I would bear in mind, actually, one thing I should mention, most of these bags aren't waterproof, so keep that in mind. I've screwed up heaps of times where I leave something in there overnight, it rains, and then it's soaking. There's a few things actually sitting over there that are drying right now because I forgot last night. Crap. Anyway, so yeah, so we go to the frame bag. I've actually got the Surgeon Zip, which is one of the Alpkit's kind of like makes, I guess, of the bag. I probably wouldn't go for that. I'd probably go for the divider system where you got a zip in the middle and it splits the bag in two, just because it means that things don't bulge down the bottom. And if you have a look here, you can see I've actually worked a pretty decently sized hole into the bag just from striking it with the pedal. So keep that in mind. Anyway, if we move a little bit further down, we've just got like a salsa cage. This is one of the J-Packs bags as well too. That just holds water really nice and low and centered on the bike. And then I've got another little kind of water bottle holder bag here that usually holds my bike lock. Just trying to maximize like packing space. Alright, if we move a bit further forward on the top, we've got kind of the handlebar system. I've got two bob bags here. I really like the bob bag because it makes the water easy to access. It does limit your turning circle a tiny bit, but only if you're trying to like turn on a dime. Apart from that, you never notice it. So I honestly never notice it because I'm never trying to turn like 90 degrees right in one go. So really handy. Then I've just got my Garmin here, my eTrex 20X with a RAM mount, I think it is. Really reliable, super cheap. You can move it around. Good option. And then we've got the actual handlebar system itself. So this is the Revelator Harness, and then I think it's called the Pockets, the one on the front, that I did find with this harness, it took a little bit of getting used to. Probably the one thing I would say is if you're packing this bag a little bit longer, you've got 3 straps here, 1, 2, 3, but I also added I just bought 2 random straps, and it really holds this to the center, I guess, of the handlebar. Otherwise, if it's quite long, you'll turn, and you'll notice there's a slight delay with the bag, so it kind of moves around a bit, but with these 2 straps, the thing is just absolutely bulletproof. And then on top of that, then I have the pockets, and the pockets is kind of bag here. One thing I would say as well too about the handlebar system, try and keep everything as close as you can to the handlebars. The further you move away from it forward, the more things start to bounce around and drop, and the more stuff bounces around, the more likely things are to like rub on your tire or break something or whatever. So try and keep all the heavy stuff as close as you can to your handlebar. I have my camera in this pockets bag, which is actually quite heavy, but ideally you'd have like some light food or a jacket or something like in there, and that means it would stay quite light and wouldn't bounce around as much. And then on the bottom here we've got 2 fork bags. This is the same thing, the salsa anything cages I think they're called, and then we've got the J-Packs bags. One thing I would also mention as well too about the forks and I guess the handlebar system in general is if you're doing kind of more trail riding and there's stones and you're stopping and starting, you might have to be lifting your front. Hey, there's a bike touring guy. Sweet. Anyway, this is Norway. Did I mention I'm in Norway? Cool. Wow, he's in really high vis gear. Mate, you probably can't see him on the video. He's over there. Oh, he's packing a lot. Anyway, all right, concentrate, Luke, concentrate. Yes, the front, right? Weight. So bear in mind if you're stopping and starting a lot, the weight on the front makes a really big difference because you're trying to like go over rocks and over roots and all that stuff. So always try and keep the heavy stuff further to the back of the bike, and then on the front try and keep like food and the more bulky items, so that way you can really lift it, because you're going to need to all the time lift it over a root, lift it over a rock, whether that's actually riding or you're actually hiker biking and then you're lifting it yourself. I also as well too over there have a 32 litre backpack, and I find that is super useful just because it means it carries my laptop. That's probably the main thing. Also carries a few bits and pieces, like it carries a drone. I'm flying a drone around. Some clothing, and it's also like super waterproof, and by that I mean like even if it's soaking with rain and all these bags are soaked, you can often put a lot of these things in that backpack and it's watertight, so you don't have to worry about it. So highly recommend a backpack. I think that's pretty much it for now actually. If you, like I said, if you got any kind of comments, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll get to it directly, or maybe I'll make another video or something like that. But that pretty much summarizes my bikepacking setup to date.